It was a late night. I was coming home from work, and I didn't want to use the train because of those homeless bums and thugs round the street. The streets were very lonely and brought a creepy feeling that someone was watching me through those dark alleyways, even though I knew this place like the back of my hand. I called a cab to pick me up. After an hour of standing in the dark, the cab finally arrived. I sat in the front seat next to the driver, who was a pudgy man with dark brown hair. I smiled at him, and I told him I would be paying with cash. He had a deep, raspy voice, but yet at the same time it was smooth. He looked at me strangely, but I couldn't understand why. I dismissed it, as I do most things. I wasn't really a man of faith or religion, but rather a man of science. "Where to?" he asked. I told him to drop me off by the George Washington Bridge. He mentioned that we'll have to pick up some other passengers too, and I told him it would be okay. We went downtown into another lonely street. It was even creepier, with glass bottles and trash everywhere. Eyes seemed to be watching us menacingly. I shuddered. The temperature dropped suddenly, which was quite odd. I already hated it here. The car stopped. I looked down at my phone and quickly looked at the headline news. Behind me, I heard a silky woman's voice and a gruff man's voice. In unison, they both stated the street name and address, and I realized that they needed to go uptown. We started to drive, and as I stared at the news article on my phone for 15 minutes, I didn't care to look behind me. After all, I had driven with a lot of weirdos in a cab before. Eventually, however, I turned around to say hi and have a chat. But when I turned, I yelped. Sweat fell off my face. There was no one there. Just bloodstains where they probably would have sat. I spun back around at the driver. He wasn't human anymore. I watched in horror as the driver's skin melted off like wax, collapsing into the body's lap. The face, which was now a skeleton, grinned at me. Its eyes filled with blood, and it overflowed as if it was crying, staining its white skull. "Welcome to your doom," I screamed and bolted out of the car. I felt something sharp in my back, and I realized that the skeleton took its bloody finger and threw it at me like a spear. I groaned, but before the thing could do anything more, I ran off. I don't know how long I ran for, but eventually I found myself in Times Square. From there, I took a bus. I made sure it was extremely busy. When I finally got home, I told my wife that a deranged serial killer did this, and she believed me. We reported it to the cops. I told them about the appearance of the man before he molted. After that, things began to return to normal. Or so it seemed. One day, when I looked outside of the window, I saw him again, with his blood-stained face and his finger pointing straight at me.